Advaita Vedanta, it says, what you are seeking, you already have it. Only thing is you don't know about it. So I am seeking immortality. Advaita Vedanta says you are already immortal. I am seeking satisfaction, freedom from frustration, negativities, or other negative emotions. I am seeking that. Advaita Vedanta says you already are that. So, what you are basically seeking in this life, you are already that. Already that, but I don't see it. Yeah, you don't see it. And if you are interested, Advaita Vedanta can show.
Namaskar, Acharya ji.
Namaste.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are
Thank you.
you?
I'm good as well, and thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
Hoping to learn so much from you in this session. Before we move on to the main topic, Acharya ji, could you just give a brief introduction on your own journey and who you have been till this point in time?
I am a graduate from IIT Kharagpur and I passed in the year 1993. Then I was with Hindustan Shipyard Limited at Vizag. And then in less than 2 years, I joined Arsha Vidya Gurukulam with Swami Dayananda Saraswati and went through a intensive course on Vedanta and Sanskrit. And then from 1998 onwards, I'm moving around, mostly based in the north, but I keep moving in different parts of India for different assignments, some seva work as well as teaching, etc.
So you did your course when it was a 3-year course, 95 to
Three
98.
and a half, yeah. Yeah,
So you worked in a professional field prior to this.
that's right.
And were you always interested in doing such a course? Because even at that time, taking a 3.5-year break from professional life
No,
was a
that's
tough
true.
decision.
That's true. You see, during my IIT days itself, we used to have a Gita class every Saturday evenings. So I was part of that group and we continued that group for quite long till I was there. So for 4 years, I was in that group. So from there only, I got some idea about what the scriptures are, really speaking. And then my interest increased, and I just wanted to know more about it. And so actually, I came for 6 months, the 6 months course. I was a bit late there, but I joined. And then I thought after 6 months that let me continue for another 3 years. So that's how I left my job and there was there, and then I continued.
And did you have a familiarity with Advaita Vedanta prior to coming to Arsha Vidya?
Just a little bit uh, in the hostel at IIT. We used to have those chick classes, Chinmaya Yuva Kendra classes. So some introductory exposure was there. But when I went into the depth of it, it was a mind boggling thing. It was just totally different. I never imagined that our scriptures are in such depth, different fields. Each one is an ocean in itself. And one lifetime is not enough to get into those depths of any particular subset field also. So this is the beauty about our scriptures.
Before we move on, just one quick question on that, because jumping from IIT to Arsha Vidya,
Right.
were you always completely sure of the step, or were there doubts somewhere in between? And
No, it was a big gamble. You see, because I was from IIT, different people were pulling me in different directions. And each one was saying that their following and their group is the best and well renowned, and I will not be misguided there, etc. So I won't name them, but at least 8 to 10 of them I visited. I stayed there for 3 to 5 days, 7 days in different those, I will say, groups or the faith system or whatever you want to call it. And then I was thoroughly confused. So much so that I said that, look, all of them cannot be right, because some of them are talking which are truths which are mutually exclusive. If one is right, then the other cannot be right. That much thinking I had. But then which one is right? How do I know? So I was thoroughly confused. So it was just a gamble. Literally, I tossed a coin before joining the Gurukulam. If it is heads, I will join. If it is tails, I won't. And it was heads, and I joined.
Would you like to share what was on the other side of the coin?
It was tails. That means I would continue and wait for some more time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Acharyaji, just from a bird's eye view or 1,000-foot view,
right,
what is missing in our lives? I mean, because so there is this journey, this direction which you chose,
right.
which very few choose actually. Most of us are running around in our lives doing our daily tasks.
That's right,
And from afar, it does seem that, okay, there are some good times, there are some bad times, but the default way of living seems okay. So,
right.
what is it? What is missing in our lives, and why is the default way not completely fine?
Well, let me modify your question a bit, because the question itself is hazy, shaky. Not everybody thinks that way.
Mm.
Some people are highly satisfied with all incongruencies of life, all difficulties, and they know all the things, and still they are okay with it. I won't say they are happy with it. I'm saying they are okay with it. They don't see it as a problem. So if they don't see it as a problem, this question doesn't apply to them. Only to those people who can see little bit more of with more at a more depth, and who are more discriminative, and they can fathom few more facts. Only for those people this question applies, that what is missing in our lives. For some people nothing is missing. Life is like that. You continue living, have a peg at night, sleep well, next day run, do whatever you want to do. But only those people who say that, is there something more to life, only for them your question applies. That yes, there are series of disappointments, frustrations, difficulties. Then we get some moments where we are satisfied. We want to prolong those moments of satisfaction, and we want to avoid the dissatisfaction phases of our life. And even we want to remain young. We want to prolong our youth. That's how all the dyes are sold in the market, and different creams and whatnot. So everybody wants that. Those who are discerning and those who are not discerning, both of them want the similar things. Only discerning people, they ask a question: is there something more to it? Am I, is my expectation right, or am I expecting too much? Those doubts come in those in such people, and then your question becomes meaningful or applicable to such people. And then yes, uh, we say that yes, there is something more we have to think about. You see, if you are not a discerning person and not a thinking person, generally what happens is slavery to the senses is considered freedom. Do you understand? Just I'm repeating my words. How do a person defines one's freedom and happiness and exuberance? Slavery to the senses. When I say senses, it is not limited to sense organs, even impulses and whatever behavioral pattern we have gathered without thinking, instinctually. So the more I can fulfill my instinctual cravings, I consider myself privileged and free person. If somebody is curbing that freedom, then we don't like it. So I call it slavery to the senses is considered freedom. When a person realizes that this is not, this is slavery, this is not real freedom. I know what I like. I am swayed away with my likes and dislikes, and I know what is good for me. And there is a conflict. And what is good for me, I put aside. What I like or dislike, I align myself with my likes and dislikes. And I think that is happiness, that is freedom, that is the real meaning of life. This is where the problem lies. We all know, all means most of us know, getting up at before sunrise, exercising in the morning, having proper sleep, all those things is good for me. But then I am not able to do it. I put an alarm, but I put it off in the morning. In fact, that same alarm irritates me in the morning. I make so many resolutions in the beginning of the year. I will do this, I won't do this, etc., etc. I'm not able to follow it. Why? Because I am aligned with my likes and dislikes and not with what is good for me or what is not good for me. So, this is where the problem lies. It's not that people do not know what is good for them and what is not good for them. Most of them know. Some areas they may not be knowing and they are willing to know. But that doesn't solve the problem. Every, I mean, 9 out of 10 smokers know, serial smokers, that it is not good. But they can't, they are helpless. Right? So this is where the problem lies.
Acharya, the two groups which you mentioned, the discerning kind and the non-discerning kind,
Right.
what's the difference between these two groups? And where does the difference come from? I mean, the people who are discerning, what is different about them? I mean, how how did these two groups come to be?
Well, how it came or how does it come, I'm not getting into that
Hmm.
because then that becomes another topic in itself. But what is the difference? I can tell you. A discerning group is willing to ask few more questions, willing to explore something more than what he or she can see or has been thinking about. A non discerning one is whatever I know, whatever I have learned is good enough for me. I need not discuss on this topic anymore, or I need not think deeper on this topic anymore. That is the difference between a discerning group and a non discerning group. And as per the scriptures, it is the Purva Punya. Purva Punya means some good merits from the past karmas of this life or previous lives. That the discerning attitude or the faculty develops and a person starts exploring things.
So, how does Advaita Vedanta then define, articulate, approach this both the problem and the solution?
Yeah. Now, Advaita Vedanta, in a nutshell, I can tell you, it says what you are seeking, you already have it. Only thing is you don't know about it. For example, I am seeking immortality. Almost, it's instinctual. Everybody, discerning, non-discerning, or if there is any third category, whichever, every person or every creature innately wants to live and live longer. There may be a few exceptions, but those are different reasons. But otherwise, this is a common trait. So I am seeking immortality, directly, indirectly. Even producing offspring is actually extending my immortality, not through me, not directly in this body, but through me, another body, another body. So I am seeking immortality. Advaita Vedanta says you are already immortal. I am seeking satisfaction. I'm not using the word happiness deliberately, or bliss. I'm not using those words. I'm seeking contentment, satisfaction, freedom from frustration, negativities, or other negative emotions. I'm seeking that. Advaita Vedanta says you already are that. So, what you are basically seeking in this life, you are already that. Already that, but I don't see it. Yeah, you don't see it. And if you are interested, Advaita Vedanta can show it. This is the approach of Advaita Vedanta towards the problems of life. What you are seeking, you are already that.
So there are two parts, or there are multiple levels to this. One level is that even the terms which you defined, immortality, satisfaction, not going into bliss, happiness, even they seem to be a second level of seeking, because at the primary level most of us are seeking to be better than our neighbors, or to get the new car, or to get the new promotion, or to get more money.
Yeah, those are symptoms. Symptoms of I'm dissatisfied with my present, whatever being, my present state, and I want to make it better through some means so that then I will be satisfied.
So already we get into the category of discerning and not discerning. So
Right,
somebody, right, so if we are looking for a new promotion or something else, we are, I mean, if we discern, it seems that we are at the moment thinking we are not satisfied, and we are looking for that satisfaction of being
correct,
content.
correct,
And if we get to that level of articulation or discernment, then Advaita Vedanta says you already are that.
right.
How do we understand that? I mean, because on a first instant, it just, I mean, there is this, it's not a roadmap, it's not a practice, it's not saying, okay, you do these 5 things, then you will become content. It's just directly short circuiting us to the answer.
I know that. That's true. So when Advaita Vedanta says that basically your dissatisfaction is driving you to do new things. Doing new things is not a problem. You keep doing. But if it is out of dissatisfaction and thinking that doing new things will solve that problem, that is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. You have to discover that satisfaction within yourself. Now that this is no, I mean, it's not something like it is in the pocket and you discover it and you take it out and it happens. It's a journey in itself. And that journey, I have to borrow terms from the psychological sciences. It's a therapy. Just as a counselor, and the counseling sessions of any problem doesn't happen in one day or one sitting. It takes multiple sittings, sometimes years together, to transform a person, for making the person discover something different, start thinking in a different way. Correct? Similarly, Advaita Vedanta, what it says, that was in nutshell. But to reach there is a therapy. And then it prescribes various steps. And in those steps, yoga, life of yoga, which we call karma yoga, is one of the important steps. Then understanding Ishvara. What is this nature of this universe? Who are you in this universe? Where, how you are connected to this universe and this entire scheme of things. Try to understand. Maybe because you are disconnected, you feel disconnected. That is another reason of dissatisfaction. And you don't know about it. And it is driving you. So let us make those connections. And then re-evaluate how you feel, what you are doing. So the nutshell knowledge is actually a one-day job. But to assimilate that knowledge, sometimes one lifetime is not enough because it's a process. It's a rehabilitation process. You see, for an alcoholic, one sentence is enough. Alcohol is not good for you, leave it. Over. Knowledge is over. But for that to happen, do you know, sometimes a person spends years together practicing and sometimes you may have to continue drinking at a lesser with a lesser dosage and then gradually move over. So many things happen. So similarly, even the way the lifestyle which Advaita Vedanta prescribes is a therapy in itself. It may even say, okay, keep fulfilling your desires. Don't stop it because then that may lead to suppression. But then don't stop thinking about it, that what could be the root cause, and don't stop working on the root cause. So this is how things move. That becomes a sadhana.
Acharyaji, when it comes to alcohol
Hmm.
or when it comes to smoking, the symptoms are pretty easy to recognize. You do a liver test and you find your parameters going
Right.
bad, and then you know you need some rehabilitation. What are the symptoms for us? And perhaps you can combine both the discerning and the non-discerning kind. But what are the symptoms which we should keep our eyes and ears open, or at least try to think that yes, we
That's it.
need some rehabilitation?
How soon you break down. This one sentence is enough. Everybody in this life faces challenges. And there are levels of breakdowns. There may be complete breakdown running into months and years, and there may be even shorter breakdowns. But everybody breaks down when faced with challenges. How much resilient you are to break down is one of the best thumb rules which anybody can apply. And I tell you, even if those who do not have any connection with Advaita Vedanta, I have met such people, and sometimes they don't even subscribe to it. But if they are resilient, I have found they are discerning persons, and it's a matter of time. If they really devote some time to Advaita Vedanta, they will understand the concepts very easily. They are already prepared. They are prepared minds. They are mature minds already. So how matured I am to handle the stresses of life and how much it affects me or paralyzes me or doesn't affect me decides what do I need.
So, how often I break down, and what is the extent of that breakdown is a good thumb rule to think that something is needed.
True.
And then, where do we find the therapist? I mean, what are the first few steps for getting into that?
The first part is quite easy to say yes and it's over. How to get a therapist? Oh my God. How to get a math tutor, you tell me?
Hmm.
You have to gamble. Try out a few ones, few tutors. You go by some hearsay, somebody who passed the exam successfully, You find out who was your tutor. Then you try it out. That tutor worked for that person doesn't mean that same tutor will work for me.
mm,
So it is like that. So this is one level of answer. There's another level of answer, prayers. And when I say prayers, mind it, I am a very scientific and technical person. So prayers are not something, some blind faith or something. And if you call it blind faith, then what is not blind faith, we will discuss about it. Finally, it is prayers. And that same thing worked for me. Do you know what used to be my prayer? When I was thoroughly confused. In fact, I was praying, Bhagwan, if you appear yourself, I will ask your ID proof.
mm.
And then even if you give your ID proof, maybe I may not be satisfied. I will say already there are 3 people in India itself who are claiming to be Bhagwan. At that time, at least 3 were there, whom I knew. So how will I trust? So I was in such a thorough, mess internally. Externally, there was no problem. I was continuing with my professional life and doing things and all. But I was thoroughly confused. Whom will I trust? How do I trust? So my prayer used to be only second half of the shloka of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Tadekam vada nischitya yena shreyo ham apnuyam. You tell me what is good for me. I didn't know any other prayer, and I became hopeless. All prayers I don't know. It's all which one is right, whether there is something called prayer or not. Even that I didn't know. I mean, I knew about it, but I stopped believing in it. So that only pulled me. That only possibly brought the heads on the coin.
Since you gave the example of maths, there is this question of finding the tutor, and you look around yourself and who coached the best students. Then there is also the option of self-study.
Yeah,
Where would you put that in this discussion?
yeah. Self study is important. In fact, self study prepares you. Even a tutor, really speaking, guides you, connects the dots. But the dots have to be there,
Mm,
and that has to be the result of your efforts. So one has to keep putting efforts. Finding a teacher, not only finding a teacher, at least the basic values one has to inculcate. Otherwise, you will become a fault finding person. Oh, this tutor, his nose is little bit tilted, doesn't suit me. What his nose has to do with his knowledge? So, just very simple. I'll give you one example. If I have some heart problem and I go to a doctor, a cardiologist or somebody who is a specialist in the heart, and I ask him, did you have a heart attack? He
mm.
says no. Then what do you know about heart attack? You can't treat me. That's a silly approach. That's a silly approach. Whether he had the heart attack or he didn't have the heart attack has nothing to do with whether he can treat my heart or not. But when I am not ready, then I will find excuses and I will keep rejecting the good ones. But if I am ready when the self study is there, in case of maths, in case of this Vedanta, it is self disciplining. When that is there, I will say whatever I gain from whoever, I will take, rather than finding whether he's a. This is another big bunkum which I faced all these years before I joined the Gurukulam. Whether this person is a jnani or not.
Mm.
How do I measure? Till now, there is no measurement machine which has come. Whether he is or not, how does that affect me? Whether he can give me something which is useful for me, that I have to look for. And you can never measure whether somebody is a jnani or not. And they make such a big fuss. He's a UN recognized jnani. Now, in UN, who recognizes a Jnani? You see, such silly concepts people float, and they are taken very seriously.
We came to the topic of science,
Yeah,
and I mean, it is especially relevant today given your own background and even going into this. I mean, taking a big gamble, as you said, 3.5 years in Arsha Vidya at that time.
true.
So, where does science figure in this discussion of whatever we have been talking?
I don't know how to put it. Okay, what comes in my mind, I put it that way. I have to share one experience. I think in the year 1997 or 6, I don't exactly remember, one of those 2 years. One Dr. Amit Goswami came to our Gurukulam. He's a physicist and he specializes in quantum physics. And one of his famous books is The Self Aware Universe, which he distributed to us. That's how I remember. And he was there in the Gurukulam for 5 days. And for 4 days, he took lectures. I think 6 to 7 hours daily on quantum physics. And we all attended those lectures. And that was an eye opener for me. You see, at the IIT, we had studied thick books on quantum physics. And I could calculate all complex formula and derive the formula and calculate the momentum of the electron, this, that. But it was like my Guruji used to give this joke. Sherlock Holmes telling Watson, Watson, see, what can you see?
Mm.
And he saw, and he said, oh, this Sagittarius constellation with 8 stars are there, and nearby there is one more constellation. Idiot, you are missing one big point. Our tent is gone. So I knew quantum physics like Watson. I knew all the calculations. I could derive many formula, but I didn't know what it means really. And that was an eye opener. It was like quantum physics and faith, they get merged because the revelations, the experiments of quantum physics gives, your whole worldview changes. It becomes fuzzy. I'll give you example. Do you know what quantum physics says? The observer decides the fate of the object. In Newtonian physics, observer has nothing to do with the phenomena. Whether somebody is observing or somebody is not observing, what has to happen will happen. If the ball has to drop, then it will drop at the particular speed and then it will move on. But at the quantum level, it's not like that. The observer decides whether this particular entity will behave as a wave or a particle. Not only it doesn't stop there. Observer can decide even retrospectively. Means what? A phenomena has happened. So we used to say this. I'll give you a joke. After Dr. Goswami went away, so somebody raised this question. uh, okay, we used to have this common problem. People used to keep their fan and lights on when the power was off, and they would come to the class, and then the power will come and the fan and light will be running, and the Gurukulam has to pay the electricity bills and all. So there would be common reminders, constant reminders that please switch off your lights and fans when you leave your rooms, etc., etc. So the joke was that since nobody is there in our rooms, so even if the electricity comes and the fans and lights are running, since no observer is there, so the fans and lights are not running.
Mm.
So if they are not running, then the bill should not come. The electricity bill should not be affected. So this was the doubt put forward. So then some other group answered, yes, it is true. If nobody is observing, the fans and lights will not be running. But the problem is when you go back to your room and when you see the lights and fans running, then the retrospectively, whatever electricity should have been consumed will get consumed and the bill will come. And this was a joke, but this is a reality. Re- Quantum physics says if some phenomena which has happened which has not been observed, if it is observed after some time, then the effect happens retrospectively. And this particular sentence hit me so hard because just a year back I had read in one of the Dharma Shastra books about samskaras, and one of the samskaras was the Pumsavan samskara, to get a male child after the woman gets pregnant. And that samskara used to be done 3 to 6 months in pregnancy. And I said, it's all bullshit. Already the lady is pregnant. So it is already decided whether it is a male child or female child. Now, why do you need to do any samskara when already it has been decided? But this quantum physics says no. Till the tests have been done and nobody knows whether it is a female child or a male child, it is in a potential state. So, retrospectively, you can change as per your observation. Is this less than a miracle? Doesn't it change? I mean, you are changing past by observation. And they have done such experiments. They would collect data from a counter, electronic counter, which will score 0 to 9 randomly. And on an average, the number should be 5 because that is the middle number. But if an observer is asked that you wish that the number is more towards 10, and then it will move little bit towards 10.
Hmm.
And if the observer is asked you wish that it is less than 5, then it moves less than 5. So up to that it was fine. Then what they did was they conducted that experiment without the observer, recorded the whole thing, and after 6 months asked the observer, you wish that the recording is more than 5, and it would show more than 5. Means what? Retrospectively, the counters moved and moved more towards the digit 10. This has been done experimentally. So is this not a miracle? And this is science. And the next question is, who is the observer? This is mind-boggling. Eyes are not observer. Because if eyes are observer, then even camera is an observer. Camera is not an observer. It's a golaka. It's an instrument. Then who is an observer? Brain. Brain is again a particle. It's not an observer. So then who is the observer? So ultimately, you land up what Alan Watts says, that the same, the so-called whatever God or Almighty is observing itself through us. We are just apertures.
Hmm.
Who is the observer? Because ultimately there is only one observer, and that is Purusha, the universe, which is self-aware. Now tell me, where is science, where is faith? And you're talking about faith? Every theorem in geometry is based on faith. They name it axiom. To prove a theorem, you need an axiom. To prove an axiom, you need another axiom. Axiom is something where you don't question, you assume it to be right. So everything is based on faith. Somewhere you have to have faith. Based on that, your arguments are developed. So faith is the starting point. Just because you named it axiom doesn't change its nature. It remains faith. I hope I gave you some glimpse of science, faith, or whatever that confusion
So
is.
you did, Acharya, and this might be a side question, but it just came to my mind. So the experiments which you mentioned, how the observer changes, and I think we have, I mean, a lot of us have seen them
Yeah,
in
that
videos,
small
small
video is
experiments.
there. That
There,
yeah.
mm. And it's been almost 3 decades since you saw Mr. Goswami deliver those
Yeah, yeah,
lectures,
yeah, yeah.
and yet these things which you just mentioned, they seem like magic.
Right.
So is it because the Newtonian part of physics is much more apparent or visible that we are just in that mindset, and everything quantum seems to be something which is for deep scientific researchers, and that is why we are not able to align science with faith as you just mentioned?
Yeah, that is one reason. Another thing is we are uh, addicted to a kind of thinking. It's an addiction. Our worldview is very limited. We see seven colors only within that particular frequencies, but there are much more frequencies above that, below that. Similarly, we hear only up to particular 20 hertz to whatever 20,000 hertz, but lower frequencies are there, and of course, infinite of larger frequencies are there. So, our worldview is hearing and seeing is the maximum worldview, and few touches here and there. And we think we know so much of the universe, but we know only this much. And we are so addicted to it. We think this is all it is, and there's
Mm,
nothing more. But the reality is, this doesn't require a lot of science. It requires just a 10th grade good student to understand this. That what we know is very small compared to what we don't know or possibly never know. Correct? So, with that limited, that frog in the well thinking, we make a world view and view about our lives, and then we make a big philosophy out of it, and then we stick to it, and we become addictive fanatics
mm,
of life. And this is where the problem lies. And it doesn't require a lot of science. You don't need to know quantum physics.
mm.
Even then you should know that capacity to know is much less. You can even compare with cats and dogs. They can see much more than us. They can hear much more than us. There is a chapter in class 8th or 10th in English in NCRT book about the 2004 or 5 tsunami.
Mm,
You see, all those station commanders of Indian Navy stationed at Andaman and Nicobars, they were moving in knickers. All their clothes, everything got washed away. And those tribals who climbed the hills before the tsunami, they were in a better shape. With all their modern gadgets, modern radars, satellite pictures, this, that, they didn't know so much, as much those animals as well as those tribals knew about it. So, why that extra pride, false pride in that limited knowledge? This is the problem.
Acharya, one again, I mean, I would love to know your thoughts on this, but just the way you were describing Newtonian versus quantum,
Right.
does it in any way relate to the Advaita Vedanta transactional reality versus absolute reality?
That trying to discover the observer leads you to the crux or essence of Vedanta.
Mm.
That is Atma. That is also Parameshwara. Although there is apparent difference, but in essence it is same. And it is non-local, not localized. It's expansive. It's everywhere. And it is working. So quantum physics helps to break that barrier of my, otherwise my worldview is what I can see is real. What I can't see, I don't know.
Mm.
But quantum physics says everything you need not see. What you see is enough to challenge your seeing. Just try to think about it. Who is the observer? Who is the ultimate observer? If your eyes are not the observer, even brain is not an observer, then who is the observer? That itself will lead you to the truths of Advaita Vedanta, at least closer to it.
And as we move closer, deeper, or more subtle points, there are two terms, Acharya, which often come in Advaita Vedanta. And the first one is the Advait part of Advaita Vedanta. What does non-duality mean? And the second term is consciousness. So could you just throw some light on both of these?
Yeah, non-duality is in the apparent plurality. There is something common, and that is the observer. Plurality you don't need to understand. It's obvious to us. Things are plural. This is different. You are different. I am different. The objects are different. So many things are there. But seeing avibhaktam vibhakteshu, vibhakta means divided. The one who can see the undivided in the divided actually sees. So that undivided whole, complete thing is what Advaita says. Advaita means. Your next part was consciousness. Now, first, I have to define the word consciousness because it is used in different contexts and it creates problems. The consciousness which I am talking or which Advaita Vedanta talks about is that which is there in the conscious being as well as in the unconscious or non-conscious beings. Living beings, non-living beings, the so-called dead material, everything has something in common, that intelligence. Because even at particle level, electron, who told the electron to keep rotating? It could have dashed into the nucleus. Who stops it? And sometimes they do. But why most of the times they don't? Nobody has an answer. Nobody. Even Bohr and all those scientists, they described the phenomena, but they couldn't answer why it doesn't happen. Because that is pralaya. Things will collapse. So consciousness, what I mean to say is the intelligence principle. The what is common in all kinds of intelligence. Whether it's a dead matter intelligence, even a dead matter has intelligence. Because that's what guides its electrons to move in a particular way. That's how the dead matter behaves in a particular way, when it has to decay, when it doesn't have to decay, etc. It follows some intelligence. And of course the conscious beings definitely exhibit intelligence. So what is common in all of them? The Jnapti principle. Jnapti is a word which is used in Advaita Vedanta. Jnanam. The Jna or Jnapti. Jnapti is the intelligence principle, the knowledge principle. That knowledge principle is what I mean by consciousness in Advaita Vedanta. not the conscious state of mind and then the unconscious and the non-conscious or subconscious, and then they have other terminology, supra conscious, super conscious. Oh god, unnecessary terms to confuse persons like me thoroughly and give up and resort to tossing the coin.
Acharyaji, so you mentioned consciousness and you sort of defined it or put it in terms of intelligence or the
Right.
knowledge principle. I mean, in that troika, there comes existence, consciousness, bliss. So perhaps this would, I mean, you
Not
could.
bliss, Ananda.
Anand.
And Ananda is not bliss. Ananda is completeness.
Mm-hmm.
Because bliss means, bliss, what do you know what it means? It means I connect that word to, if you allow me to use a vulgar language, then I connect it with prostitutes. And if I have to say in a civilized way, then I will say air hostess. How long can you smile? Tell me. Won't it give pain? So if bliss is smiling, it is painful.
Mm.
We are not talking of that. Ananda is completeness. Ananda is what you if at all you experience something in deep sleep, that is Ananda.
Mm.
So I don't use the word bliss. It's Ananda is Ananda. Ananda cannot be translated. Ramachandra, can you translate? Why you have the pressure to translate all the time? You don't need to. Just define that word properly
Mm.
and stop it. Ananda is completeness. Yeah.
And how would you then define the sat part of it?
The existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fundamental. Without if the intelligence, does it exist or doesn't? So the if it is intelligence, existence is something which comes first in a way,
Mm.
because something exists, then only you can talk about it. So it exists, and it exists in such a way that it doesn't change, that kind of existence. So unchanging existence. All other types of existence, they change. This is something which doesn't change. This is the underlying existence of all types of existences. And it is intelligent. And it is complete. Complete means it's not limited. It is there only this much in this frame of time or in this boundary of dimensions. It is free from time and space dimensions.
Mm.
That is that Sat, that Atma.
Initially, you mentioned this is a process to
Yeah,
find the observer or the one entity which is behind everything, which is giving
right,
this existence. And that non-dual aspect is something which we have to, whatever is the process, we have to reach it.
right,
What is right in front of us is the plurality.
right.
So how does one in this journey in which you have been, how do we in our daily lives, how do we reconcile this the non-dual aspect with the plurality aspect?
In all the plurality, any particular item I pick up, is it devoid of Sat? Is it devoid of Chit? Forget about Ananda part.
Mm.
For the time being, let us keep it aside. But is it devoid of Sat and Chit? No. Let me start seeing Sat and Chit everywhere. Whatever I see, that brings a different type of calmness in my mind. You just try it out for 3 months. Even if you don't believe in it, doesn't matter.
Mm.
Partly you have to believe, but need not believe fully. Just try it out. Others around you will start saying that you have changed. because it brings a different kind of settled feeling. I don't have a more complex word. Settled, unsettled, settled. Suddenly, I will find that I don't get irritated so easily. I don't get upset so easily. I don't react so violently. I don't know what has happened to me, but something is happening.
It's interesting that as we approach the end of the session, you have given us an experiment or a task or a homework to do
Right,
this for 3 months. But then there is that. I mean, we look at in the past, we have made. You said we set up alarms, and then we don't want to wake up, and we usually revert back to our old habits.
right.
So, what is happening there? Why does this keep on happening? And what is, I mean, at that gross level, how do we sustain this habit for 3 months?
First, you decide you want to sustain it. Second, pray for it, just as I did. In fact, I was praying blindly. At least you are playing partly blindly. I was totally blindly praying, not even knowing that it was a prayer. The wishes, deep wishes, which are continuously coming and very sincere, no matter what they are, they do have effect. And quantum physics even proves it.
Mm.
So it's very scientific. So even negative things you can do, but we are not talking of those things. So if there's a sincere wish from inside, and you call it prayer or you call it wish or you call it whatever inner uh, calling or whatever you want to say, it will have its effect. But it has to be sincere, continuous, just as how you see in India we have, this is a common feature. Maid servants come working at home, cleaning, sweeping, washing dishes, etc. Sometimes they have small child at home. What they are doing all that for that child. And yet, I mean, they may be doing so many things, but deep within, every moment of that mother, or at least every second moment of that mother, is focused there, no matter physically where she is. If that much yearning you have for any particular goal, it is bound to happen. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can stop it.
Acharya, I think we have probably touched upon this topic, but just since you mentioned that amount of yearning for something and we are bound to achieve it, and all through our life we have actually done that much of effort for jobs, for education, and we have
True,
studied
true,
10,
true,
15,
true.
20 years, whatever. And this journey, which should be the most important part of feeling complete, and right, this is where it's the final game is being played, let's put it that way.
Right,
It doesn't come naturally to us. So there is a process to be done before we get to the observer point of view.
true.
Why is this? Why do you think it is? I mean,
I don't know how to answer this. Not that I don't know, but I'm so hesitant to answer it. It's all the game which is playing up. It's a larger game. They try to give a reason to it. I'll give one example for that reasoning. When you go to the airport, the airline person announces your flight is delayed due to the late incoming of the late arrival of the incoming flight. Now, let me ask one question. Why that arrival of that flight was late? You give me the answer to that. You're just giving a flimsy answer reason. You simply say your flight is late. That's enough. You did not give reasons. Whatever reason you gave was a fake reason. Not fake means it is irrelevant to me. So, similarly, we give you an irrelevant answer here first. So, for some people, due to Purva Punya, the good actions of past lives or whatever, it comes easily. For some people, it takes more time. Now, the question is why in the past life or previous life that person couldn't do this much and why could this? Don't ask those many questions. The other answer is the infinite is playing through all of us. In some bodies it is playing this way, in some bodies it is playing that way, some bodies it is showing the so-called self-realized blissful person, the some bodies another type of person in deeply engrossed in enjoyment and all. It's playing, and let it play. Keep moving.
Wonderful, Acharyaji. We covered a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Before we end, is there anything, any particular verse, shloka, story, which has stayed with you on your own journey and really given you strength?
Yeah, the first one which comes to me is Nimittamatram Bhavasavya. These were the words which Lord Krishna told Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, all of them are already killed. You just become an excuse. I am translating the word nimittam as not even agent,
Mm.
excuse. You just become an excuse of to to kill them. You are just an excuse. It just doesn't matter whether you are there or not. So we are all nimittas. Things are already playing up. We think we are playing. It's like when I was small child, we used to travel in the second class. At that time, it was not even sleeper class. It was called second class, and it used to be those coal run engines. Very few electric engines, but mostly coal run. And every now and then the train will stop. Sometimes not even at a scheduled stop, somewhere in the jungle, and it's hot. And as a child, I will feel, let me push the train. So sitting near the window, I am pushing the train. And sometimes the train will move and I feel I have moved the train. Life is like that. Train is moving you. You take the credit of moving the train and enjoy. So that is one. Nimitta matram bhavasavya. Another one is Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. You think this particular thing is pleasing to me, my daughter, my child, my wife, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my job, etc. Nothing like that. Nobody is pleasing inherently. If it were so, do you know one thing? A mother and a daughter will never fight. Do you know why? One is that biological connection. Second thing is they belong to the same gender. So their bonding biologically and otherwise is closest. And I have seen enough fights between mothers and daughters. So nothing is pleasing inherently. What pleases me becomes pleasing to me. Today it is pleasing, tomorrow it may be unpleasing, displeasing. This is how life is. So Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. It is because it is pleasant to me, so it appears pleasant. Inherently it is not. These are the two ones which are coming immediately to me.
Right. This has been really, really wonderful, Charity. I think there is a lot of food for thought for me, for everybody else who
Right.
listens to this. Uh, I mean, whether we are as we started, the discerning kind or the non-discerning kind, there is a seed of curiosity which hopefully it's been planted and rest. I mean, we can pray the journey to be.
Sure.
fast or slow or fruitful or not. But thank you so much for taking the time. It's been really,
Thank you.
really wonderful
Right.
having you. Thank you so much, Acharya.
Thank you. Thank you.